What is up, everybody? Today's video, we're finally going to be tackling the brakes on the S2000. I've been waiting for a while. I honestly haven't even opened the packages. So we got race pads from Raybestos. They're ST43 is the model number of the pad. They are a race proven pad. A lot of guys swear by them. A lot of guys that track a lot more than me, they run this ST43 no matter kind of what car. So it's referred to as kind of the magical pad. So we have those pads for all four corners and also have brand new rotors. So let me crack open those boxes and make sure it actually is the right thing, because I haven't even opened it yet. So let me spin this around and we'll see what we got. Okay, so we got the rotors from Rock Auto, and they're so insanely cheap for this car. They're like, I think it was around 15 bucks for the rear rotors, just blanks, and the fronts were 20 bucks, no more than that. So super cheap that way. The expensive part was the pads. So I gotta crack open these two boxes, and let me set the camera down. We'll crack them open, make sure the pads are the right ones, the rotors are the same ones, so we can get working. So here we go with the pads. And these were, don't quote me on the exact price, but they weren't cheap. I think it was around 350 bucks just for the pads. The reason why I went with these ones, there's other ones from like Hawk Performance and stuff like that. These ones, a lot of the Hawk ones with the aggressive pad, the brake dust is really corrosive and they don't last as long. These ones, apparently, you get a ton of life out of these pads. There's not a whole lot of brake dust for a base pad, and it doesn't corrode your wheels also. So I'm assuming these are gonna be the fronts. Let's open these ones. Really not that much to it, but there they are. So I don't know how much you can tell from that, but they look like the right fronts. So let me grab that old one actually. So here's one of the old ones that we completely went metal on metal, if you guys remember from the other video. We'll just make sure that they line up. Same tabs. Yep, so they appear they're the right ones, so that's a good sign. I don't have the rears off, so I don't have anything to compare to there, but the fronts at least look like they're the real deal. I wouldn't know what the pad material looks like, but I guess it's supposed to be what it is. And let's check out the rears. The rears are gonna be pretty tiny. I know that for sure. In comparison to the fronts. So this is a tiny little caliper on the back, but tiny little car also. Here's the rear. From what I recall, they do look like them. It looks like the corner. Oh, I guess that's just the way it is. The corner of it does look funny. Hopefully you guys can see that in the camera. See the corner of that one looks kind of like we're missing something. They gypped us a little bit on the corner. And let's see what this side looks like. So there we are. Should be the real deal. Okay, so we got pads. Let me go ahead and grab that big box of rotors and show you guys the rotors. So here we go with the box for the rotors. And the brand we got was Centric. That's the one that a lot of these guys are running, and they're just running blanks. I know some people were asking me, you guys can hear me this far away, but some people were asking me why I didn't run cross-drilled or slotted rotors. But I've said this in the last video, a lot of guys that are faster than me are just running these blanks. What the heck? This is strange as packing. Look at this stuff. Rock Auto, what is this? What am I gonna do with these knee pads? There's like 100 of them in here. Look at this. I got like 2 feet of foam pad. So much junk. Alright. Down to the good stuff. So they're Centric. Like I was saying, they're not gonna be anything fancy to look at. They're just a blank rotor. Nothing crazy, just a blank rotor. So that's the rear. We got 2 of them. So 2 rears. Like I said, nothing too crazy. And then there's the fronts. Same thing, just blanks, which is what everybody's running. So same deal. So they are vented, like I was saying. See how they have this vent in here and kind of like a fan in there. So A lot of guys are just running these. We're gonna do the same. It's cheap, it's effective. With those $300 something pads, we're gonna have good stopping power. So let's go ahead, unbox the stuff or unpackage it. We'll get it prepped. I gotta run to the store and actually get brake clean and a few things, and we can get it on the car. So let's get it going. I actually picked up a few things. So you're definitely gonna need brake cleaner because there is like an oil residue that they usually put on brake rotors to keep them and prevent them from rusting. So you'll wanna clean them off thoroughly. So use yourself some brake clean and some rags of some sort, you know, blue towels, whatnot, and clean off all of the oil that's gonna be on them. So both front side, back side. So I'm gonna do that. I'll probably save you guys the hassle of watching that, but just make sure you clean them thoroughly. And the other stuff I picked up was this. So with these pads, and being a race pad, they're a really, really hard compound. So a lot of times what'll happen is people get a lot of brake squeal, and I've heard of people putting this like brake paste on the back of the pads to prevent some of the squealing. It's probably not gonna prevent all of it. It might not even do anything, but it's worth a shot. So I'm gonna put this on the back of the pads when we install it. I got 3 of this little packet stuff. This is like the high performance, high temperature one that, you know, you just pick up anywhere. So got some of that stuff. So I'm gonna clean those. We'll get things rigged up and we'll get them on. I think I'm actually gonna tackle the rear. I was debating whether I was gonna do it or not, but there's nothing really wrong with the rear. We still have pad, like stock pad left, but I'm gonna go ahead and just replace all of them since we're, you know, we have the wheels off and whatnot. So we'll just replace all 4. That way we're ready to go to the track or any events that come up, and we'll cruise around like that. I was debating, I wanna talk about this real quick. I was debating whether to get street pads so that we can sit there and swap back and forth, but I've heard it's not a good idea to go from race pads to street pads on the same rotors, and I don't wanna be changing rotors every time we go to events since we're gonna be going so often, and this car doesn't really see a whole lot of driving on the streets. So that's pretty much it. I'm gonna clean that up. We'll get to cracking. So just before we get started on the actual install, we're gonna take a minute to clean up our caliper brackets. So we have 2 slider pins and we have these here. So what I like to do is just take a wire brush, just clean off any of the crap that's on your brackets where they're gonna make contact, just so that they're a little bit better. These actually come out, so you can take the time to take them out. I usually don't, honestly. Some people might argue with that, but you can take them out. You know, if you see a bit of crap underneath there, you can clean that out too, but as you can see, there's really not anything under there. So it's back on. Like I said, I just usually clean off that part of it, and then you want to pull out your slider pins. Hopefully you can still see what I'm doing. Pull these out. Double check that there's some grease on it. If not, you can add some grease, similar to what we have here. So you can, as you can see on the picture, there you go, that you can put it on the slider pins. So I'll probably just wipe off the old grease, put some of this new stuff. Not gonna hurt. So I'll pop that out. Look at that, it's blue. Who would have thought? The package is purple, but the contents is blue. And there you go. So this actually works a lot nicer. They're actually a lot more free floating. So there we go. Some people, and this is subjective, some people will put the slider pin grease or, you know, the grease, brake grease, whatever. They'll put it on here. I don't really agree with putting it here because a lot of times I've seen a lot of brake dust will get caked here, and that stuff just attracts it. So it'll attract a ton of brake dust to here. It'll get caked there and turn into a grit and actually lock the pads in. So that's just my own opinion on it. You guys do what you want, but I am gonna put that stuff on the back of the pads when we get over there. So this is ready to go. Let's throw the caliper on and get started. So we're gonna grab our rotor first thing off, and we're gonna align the bolt pattern with the screws so we can put our 2 screws in there that we were struggling with earlier. So in the last video, I think it was, these things were kind of stuck in here. A lot of brakes actually don't have these 2 screws. They just kind of float. So they're not even completely necessary. Some guys don't even run them, but we'll put them back in. I just won't go crazy on them so we can take them out next time. So there's our rotor. Now we're gonna put on our bracket. So here's our bracket with the 2 17 mils on the back. So I'm just gonna loosely put them in for now just to hold this, and we can tighten everything later. Okay, so that is on. Pretty straightforward there. And now we can actually put our pads in. So let's go ahead and grab our pads. Hopefully they fit. And I say that because sometimes you have to trim the tab a little bit. That's kind of silly. Yeah, these pads aren't cheap, and I've heard that this can be the case, and some guys will actually just take out the kind of guides and just run them without, but I don't know if that's necessarily the best idea. The camera decides focus. They're not even the same thickness. So I'm gonna file this. There we go. I'm gonna file them so that they're both the same. You can see the bottom one is a bit thicker than the top. But let me file these for a second and then we'll continue. We're getting closer. I had to take off quite a bit of material. So this is the old pad just for reference on the size of the tabs. And we had to, come on camera. We had to take off quite a bit to make it similar. Okay, so we did get the clearance we needed after kind of modifying these a little bit. Like I said, I don't think you should have to do it for such an expensive pad, but it's not uncommon. I have unfortunately heard that you have to do that with these pads, or some people just don't run these guides or, you know, these clips, but I would rather run them. What we're gonna do next is put the caliper on. I do wanna see where the contact points are on the caliper. I don't just wanna smear that brake grease all over the back of the pad. I only wanna put it on the contact points. So I'm going to grab our caliper, and at the same time too, if you didn't retract the pistons fully, you can use something like this. It's pretty cheap, but it just pushes the piston back in, or you can get a big set of channel locks, at least for the front. The back is a different story, which we'll get into once we get there, but the front, you can use something like this or channel locks to push the piston back in. So let's do that now. And once it gets fully seated, then we can slide it over top of our pads. So next on the front, I'm just kind of using a pen or a pencil, whatever you want to use, just to kind of see where the outline of the caliper is going to be. Like I said, you could sit there and smear grease everywhere if you really wanted to. Not grease, but you know, the brake stuff. But I'd rather not have that mess everywhere, so I'm just putting a pen mark here, here, here. Take the caliper back off. We can see exactly where the contact point is and just put grease there so we don't have a mess everywhere. The other side's pretty straightforward. We're just gonna put it on the pistons. So put grease there, put grease, you know, on the back here. I guess technically we could just put it here, but I really wanted to know where it was contacting on the caliper itself. So let's go ahead and get that grease everywhere and then we'll continue. Now we'll reinstall our bolts. This thing wants to just pop off almost now. Before it would kind of sit there and stay, but I guess that grease really does its thing. And there we go. So I'm gonna tighten the two 12mm bolts in the back that are holding the caliper portion to the brackets. Also tighten our 17mm bolts on the back. Get everything tight, we can move on to the other side. Time for the driver's side. So you guys know the drill. We'll clean up the caliper, get it greased, get that new rotor on there, get the bracket on there. We're gonna have to outfit those pads, so we'll have to grind them again, put the caliper on, tighten everything up, and it'll be done. So let's go. So fronts are all done. Like you can see, we got the brake grease all in here, our lubricant. All the bolts are tight. We got the 12mm tight. We have the 17mm, you can maybe see right there, but there's 17mm bolt back here. 17 is tight on top and bottom. So that's all done. We're done in the front. We can go to the back now. So back we still have the stock brakes on. Like I said, there's still a tiny bit of meat on them, but really not that much. These are actually Honda rotors, as you can see. I did crack these loose, these Phillips screws. So these should be easy to get out. I wanted to make sure that, you know, we weren't gonna run into any headaches. So I did go ahead and crack these off camera. But other than that, we're gonna take out these two Phillips. We're gonna remove the caliper from the bracket. So same thing, 12 on the top, 12 on the bottom. And then there's 14mm bolts, which you can probably see right here. Instead of 17s that hold the bracket on the back, it's 14mm heads. So two 14mm and the bracket will come off. We'll take the rotor off and I'll show you what we gotta do next. So we got the old junk off. That rotor's still good. We could probably use it as a spare, but like I was mentioning earlier, we don't want to use this rotor with new pads. If we were gonna use those Raybestos pads, we would have to get this machined and turned to clean off all the old pad material off the face. So now we're gonna put the new rotor on, and it's pretty well the same as the front. Put the rotor on, put the 2 screws on, put the caliper bracket on. Then we're gonna put our pads in. We'll grease up the faces of these, put our 2 bolts in that hold it. Of course, we're gonna clean up this bracket as well and grease up these slider pins. This one's looking a little bit more stiff, so they're moving, but definitely need some grease on some of these. So we'll go ahead, get this all prepared, throw it together, and we'll move on to the other side. One good piece of information is after test fitting the rear pads, they fit right in, no issue, no trimming necessary. So these ones just kind of slide in there like that. They're not the same as the front where they have to go through an actual guide, but they fit in, so at least we don't have to muck with the rear pads. So this all greased up, cleaned up. Let's go back. All right, so let's throw our rotor back on. Like so. I was actually debating painting these, but I don't think I want to bother with it right now, honestly. I bought some silver high temp paint to paint here, but I don't know. We'll see how it holds up. If it ends up rusting a little bit, then we'll do it, but I didn't really want to go through the tedious task of trying to tape this all off, and then with these pads being so expensive, I didn't want paint to get on there. But anyways, different story. So our bracket's ready. Grab our bracket. We'll use our 14mm bolts to hold it on here. Also, one other side note, see this index right here? That goes on the inside because I'll show you in a second on the caliper. It has crosshairs on it that have to engage on this peg. So make sure you put the one with this peg on your inside facing the piston. So I'm gonna go into further detail on this on a separate brake video. These are high performance brakes, but I wanted to do like a separate Honda brake video. But most rear brakes on economy vehicles such as this one will have this here. And what happens is this is a parking brake rear caliper. It's all kind of incorporated into one. And in order to push this piston back, you have to turn this clockwise as you push it in. So it kind of has like a mechanism in there to stop it from going in. And you're gonna need to find the right fitting for it. So get yourself one of these rear brake caliper or caliper tools. So this is magnetic, it's gonna stick on there, and what it's gonna do is engage into these crosshairs and turn this as we push it. So watch, this is gonna go onto there. So what this is gonna do is as we turn it, it's gonna be a combination of pressing it in and turning it clockwise to get it to retract. So you kind of have to jimmy with your kit a little bit like you're seeing me do here. So there you see now our piston is retracted. So we can go ahead and slide this over the caliper, get our grease in here, and get those 2 bolts in. We are all done on the driver's side rear, so everything's in. We got our 2 Phillips bolts. We have our grease on our caliper, and we have our 2 12mm bolts tight for our slider pins. We have our 2 14mm bolts that are holding the bracket on. Everything's good to go besides the wheel. We can go on to the last wheel, get it all done, and then we can put it on the ground. There we go. We got the all new brakes on. So the backs are done, both sides. We got the fronts done. Let's get the wheels on, get the car on the ground, and wrap this thing up. There she goes. You have to get some wood though. Some wood and put the jack into the back. Put it under the rear diff. The joys of owning a lowered car and a lift. So that shows you why sometimes I don't bother to put it on the lift and I just jack it up, because sometimes it's honestly just easier to put it on a jack. So this is kind of the way we have to take it off. And that's how the arms can come out. Just like so. Even the front's not simple. I probably messed up by putting the wood there because it's probably gonna hit, of course. So this is what I was kind of mentioning. For lucky, ooh, just barely swung out. That's kind of the fun stuff that we have to go through to get this thing out of here. Let's see if this one, no, pushing it. Let's see, ooh, just managed. And this one, ta-da. All right, so we're not too bad. I'm gonna put the parking brake on before this thing rolls away though. We did have to take the parking brake off to work on the brakes. Ooh, went up real high because we haven't pumped the brakes. But maybe we'll put it in the gears to be safe too, so she doesn't roll away on us. Now we can set it down. Okay. Hey guys, so it's actually the next day. It was super late when I finished this thing, and I'm driving the car right now, and it's pretty, I don't want to jinx it, but right now it's kind of just like normal brakes. I'm not getting any weird squealing noises or anything like that. You can kind of hear that cross hatching noise like I was showing you before, but nothing out of the ordinary just yet. So I don't know, we'll see here. We got to do our heat cycling, so you're supposed to do, don't quote me on this, I still gotta look it up, but you're supposed to do about 8 stops that are from 60 miles an hour down to 20. So you're supposed to do that and then kind of just standing on the brakes like back to back to back to try to get them super hot, and then you let it cool down like completely. So that's supposed to be the plan for like brake in or bedding in. So I'm gonna have to do that at some point. Right now I'm just headed to a Cars and Coffee, but once we do that, I'll definitely film it when we're slamming on the brakes and see my reaction. So anyways, let's get to it. Yeah, unfortunately I didn't turn the camera on, but I was just stopping to a stop. I wasn't trying to do any tests. And literally, I mean, kind of expected, but at the same time, literally everything that I had on the seat, just from coming to a stop, it's now right at the bottom of the footboard. So I'm gonna take some of the stuff out so we don't have to listen to it when I do the brake stops, but let me put some of the stuff in the trunk and then we'll resume. All right, here we go. We're gonna take it up to about 60. Jesus, you guys. That is nuts. It's like superhuman brakes. Let's try it again. Oh, there's 2. Clouds of smoke coming up behind us. That is nuts. That is the most insane braking I've ever felt. That has to look crazy on camera. It has to, right? I'm trying not to scare other cars. So I'm just gonna chill. You could park it, but I'm literally just not gonna use the brakes. We're dead straight for a while. I'm just gonna go cruise to the Cars and Coffee. So let it cool off and we'll see what happens. There was a bunch of smoke coming out the back, but those last couple I didn't see any. So I think all the junk that's on the rotors probably burnt off and they kind of bedded in. So we'll let them cool and I'll let you guys know what it feels like. So I do have to report that there is a little bit of squealing on these brakes after driving around, bedding them in. When they're cold, like if you're just cruising around and you go to stop, then you'll hear the squeal or squeak. But if they're hot, you've been beating on it, then there's not really any noise. So, but the noise is still there. It's just the nature of the compound of the pad, I guess. So we'll have to live with it. Let me show you what it sounds like. So here we are, about 40 miles an hour. We're gonna slow down. It's not terrible, but and you can modulate it. If you push the brakes a little bit more, you get a little bit more squeal out of it, but that's it. Nothing too obnoxious, but it is there as far as squeal or squeak. Okay, so we're back in the garage, you guys, and I just want to let you know that the new brakes do work really, really well. You guys probably saw in that video there that we don't lose traction with these super grippy tires, and with the pads, like you can stop on a dime. Like it's ridiculous how fast this thing can stop now. Given the stock braking system, all we have is good fluid, steel braided lines, and those super grippy Raybestos ST43 compound pads. And we have brand new rotors, like you guys know. But yeah, the ABS kicks in, but the thing just stops on a dime. Like it's wild how quick it stops. There is a little bit of squealing when they're cold. Like if you're driving aggressively, they're fine. But if the brakes are at all cold, or you're not like kind of driving the car aggressively or hitting the brakes a lot, as soon as the pads and the rotors get a little bit cold, you get that squeal. So that'd be the only downfall to the whole setup, but I'm not worried about it whatsoever. The car is built to go to the track, and if it sits there and squeals a little bit driving around town, I'm not mad whatsoever. So if it was a daily driver, I could see how it would get annoying, but for our purposes, it works perfectly. Anyways, you guys, let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Make sure you give it a thumbs up, hit that subscribe button, and we'll see you on the next video. Take care.